participants, speakers, members, and delegates to this session. The pandemic has affected various sectors of the economy, but at the same time, it has catalyzed new ways of doing things. As schools and universities were shut for a very long period of time due to nationwide lockdowns and fear of contracting the virus, it impacted over 1.5 billion learners in more than 180 countries. In India, it accelerated the adoption of e-learning and a large number of local innovations going global, turning India into the Edtech capital of the world. And this, dear participants, is the theme for our session. With this backdrop, I'm delighted to introduce our very esteemed panel for this session. Shri Amitabh Kant, CEO, Niti Aayog. Sir, thank you very much for your continued support to PAFI. In a recent interview, sir, you mentioned that the pandemic-induced learning crisis and the fourth industrial revolution has made it necessary to reimagine education and align it with unprecedented technological transformation. We look forward to hearing your views further, sir. Shri Baiju Ravindran, co-founder and CEO of Byju's, India's largest edtech company, compliments to you, sir, on creating a decacon and India's most loved learning app. Thank you for joining us today. Shweta Rajpal Kohli, Chief Public Policy Officer, Sikua India and Southeast Asia. Thank you, Shweta, for your participation and for moderating this session. Shri Ajay Khanna, Forum Chairman and co-founder PAFI and Group Global Chief Strategic and Public Affairs, Jubilant Bhartiya Group. Thank you all very much. And without any further ado, I would like to now hand over to Shweta for what promises to be a very exciting discussion on what lies ahead for India in terms of education technology. Delegates may kindly post any questions in the Q&A box and we will take them up later. Over to you, Shweta.
Thank you so much, Medha, and it is indeed a privilege and an honor for me to be hosting this session. And why I believe this one is a real special one, because it's a rare opportunity to get two legends, two stalwarts on one platform. And it is true that both Mr. Kant and Baiju need no introduction. Both have had such inspirational journeys, one in the public sector, the other in the private sector, and they have been change makers for India in their own right. But today's session is both of them coming together to talk about a subject they are very, very passionate about. And yes, it goes beyond their Kerala connection. This is all about EdTech and what will it take to make India the EdTech capital of the world. With that, let's set the stage and dive straight in and get Mr. Kant to share his views about why and how India is positioned to take advantage of this unique opportunity. Mr. Kant, just a few weeks ago, we read a wonderful column by you talking about how you believe technology in the education space will be that big transformational agent in helping improve India's learning outcomes.
Shweta, let me first say that it's great pleasure to be on this platform, and I'm delighted that Mr. Baiju Ravindran, who's done such a tremendous job, is also my co-panelist. I've been a long-term believer in leveraging technology to usher in transformative change at huge scales. And India's experience in leveraging technology for the greater good has paid us rich dividend. Yesterday, we reached 1 billion vaccination, largely because we were able to use technology through the COVID app in a very big way. And now is really the time to expand the use of technology in social sectors such as health and education. And I'm really delighted that EdTech is a growing area in India, and it's best exemplified by my co-panelist, Baiju Ravindran. And he's done some incredible work in India. And since the pandemic, we've seen the rise in both the growth and the funding for EdTech firms in India. This is not surprising since students in the past 18 months have spent their time remotely. Now, why I say that technology will have to be the key driver, because we should be acutely aware of the challenges that we face in Indian education system. The National Achievement Survey, the NAS, and several other reports highlight that in any classroom, you will find students who are on a spectrum of learning levels. For instance, grade 5 classrooms may have a group of students at grade 5 level, others will be at grade 3 level, and in few cases, there will be students at grade 2 level or even below. Now, teachers struggle as well. Most of them have a textbook of grade level 5 as their only teaching learning material. On top of that, they have a syllabus to complete for all the students, irrespective of the fact that many students in these classrooms are not even ready for a lesson at grade level 5. And the teachers are just keen to complete their curriculum and not look at improving learning outcomes across the board. So you'll have 5 students who are very good, who have grasped it all, and the teacher is teaching them. Students who are still at the level of grade 2, grade 3, grade 4 will not absorb, and they keep passing classes till they reach class 9 and they have not grasped it at all. Now, even with the best intentions and motivation, the teachers lack the wherewithal to tailor their instruction at the real learning level of the students due to a paucity of time and resources. And on the other hand, students feel alienated in the classrooms when teaching learning is happening at higher learning levels than their current level. And eventually, they lose interest, there's growing disinterest in studies and failing in the learning, and they all start falling in the learning poverty trap. And to my mind, technology is the only way we can tackle both these challenges. First, technology can help the teachers to keep track of the learning progression for each of the students. And teachers could use personalized adaptive technology to tailor their instructions to the learning level of the students. And secondly, when the teachers explain the concept in one group, the other groups could attempt practicing questions using the technology solution. The assessment results will help in forming a closed feedback loop for the teacher to alter teaching to help students learn better. And to my mind, teaching, through technology and using technology can help us leapfrog, and it can ensure equity in learning opportunities within a classroom. Therefore, I'm a great believer in technology.
Right, Mr. Kant, and I think India is fortunate to have people like you in positions of power because your support to the startup ecosystem, your support to tech-led models of transformation is perhaps one of the reasons why we're seeing the kind of excitement we are in the overall startup ecosystem. But let me turn to Baiju now, because in many ways, Byju's has come to define India's edtech space. And what a remarkable journey it's been in the last 10 years. From very humble beginnings of just an idea to today being the world's most valuable edtech company, and of course, India's most valuable startup. It is an inspirational journey, Baiju, and you've led it from the front. Today, valuations touching to the tune of $20 billion. But share with us, give everybody a sneak peek into this journey, because clearly it's been a fascinating journey, but not an easy one, and why you believe now is India's moment as far as edtech is concerned.
Yeah, it's as a name, we are probably the most valuable edtech in the world. We are the most valuable startup in India. But these are all at the end of the day, just names. Like if you look at even in our core segment, the number of students, those who are continuously learning from the platform, you will realize that this is just relative success, and there is a long way to go before we will think of this as success. But we see that we are on the path to changing the way students learn in India and globally. And I believe this is one of those sectors where technology is late, like at least a couple of decades late in terms of making a positive intervention. Whereas like reiterating the three big challenges which is in our education system, and that's most of it is common across the world specific to India, whether it's access to teachers, forget about access to good teachers, access to teachers itself is a challenge in our small towns and villages. I've gone to school like that. I come from a small village. I'm not telling this to dramatize the story, but the fact is that itself is a big challenge. Now, technology can be used to solve this access itself, but more importantly, there are areas where we can improve the way students learn, creating formats which are appealing for them to become self-learners or active learners. It's very important to create students who take initiative in learning, and not like, unfortunately we live in a country where it's learning driven by fear of exams and not love for learning. And on one side, more than teachers are like focused to complete curriculums, but the bigger challenge is students uh, learning just for exams, and which is driven by fear of exams, and that adds more and more pressure on students. And that's why unfortunately a lot of students gets left behind once parents start reading too much into marks and grades. The biggest challenge is whether it's an online classroom or an offline classroom, and that's where using technology and by productizing the offering, how do we personalize, even if there are like just 20-30 students in a classroom. And we live in a country where unfortunately it's a very suboptimal 1:35 teacher student ratio. It's impossible to personalize based on the proficiency level of the students, where the opportunity is that using technology you can personalize based on uh, their level of understanding, based on their pace of learning, based on their style of learning. Most of us, we ourselves won't know how we learn. Like some of us learn better by seeing, by watching videos. Some of us learn better by listening. So some learn by reading is another format. Learn by playing is another format. Learn by doing is a very powerful format. It like suddenly when like if you can use technology as a strong enabler, it's not the like it's still content first. Teachers have an important role to play. Is the opportunities, and I strongly believe these are very early days in terms of what technology can do. This is a grossly underinvested sector, and that's why like over the next 20-30 years you will see that like technology will make a difference to this sector also, just like how it has improved almost everything else like which we do on a day-to-day basis. And it's such an important sector which can change the future of a country, which because like India, everybody talks about a demographic dividend, and but it's a double-edged sword, because if we cannot make sure that the next generation they get right access to education, right, it's like we will end up like on one side it will become an undereducated, underemployed or unemployed youth is a recipe for disaster. But on the other side, if we can use this as an opportunity they expect that this will cap in 2041. So we have 20 more years left, which if we can capitalize to our strength, we can change the way we can define our future. And that's where uh, so the opportunity is huge. As you mentioned, the India to become the Edtech capital of, it looks very promising, but we need to live up to it. And that's why it's still a lot more effort and many years. And I'll say we are on the right path, and there is access to, today nobody can complain about access to capital. The other two important factors: do we have the skill? Do we have like enough graduates here? Those who like, and for most of them, education is almost everything, because that's the only way we can make it big in India, and that's why it's so ingrained in our culture. We don't need to create awareness for. We don't need to create awareness for learning in India, which is actually in a lot of other markets. It's very like creating awareness for learning among students and parents itself is a big challenge. So it's a big advantage. So that's why starting in India, this will be one of those sectors which India has a chance to define globally. We can have global champions coming out of India, changing the way students learn across multiple markets. And access to capital, like I normally say, like if you have this trifecta of access to capital, ambition and skill, nothing can stop us from doing what we want to. And like fortunately we like today nobody can complain that we have enough people, those who are ambitious. Skill, there is no lack of that. We have created a lot of global, we run and create large global companies outside India. And today that ecosystem, like both digital infrastructure is improved by leaps and bounds over the last 4-5 years. So only complacency can stop us from achieving the potential which we have in front of us.
Well, that's clearly encouraging, Baiju, to hear you talk about the future, to talk about the next 20 years. And it's great that you have your vision set on what technology can do to the education space. I can't help but look back at that journey, because what's interesting is some of the milestones that may have helped achieve what we have till now. And of course, you're not resting on your laurels, and you clearly want to have a much bigger and bolder vision for both EdTech as far as India is concerned, and EdTech as far as the global story is concerned. But share with us and share with us a little more about how this journey, because it's just a 10-year-old journey. From what I understand, 30th November is when you complete 10 years of Byju's existence. But in this journey, what have been the key milestones? Take us back to those days when you were live in a stadium in Bangalore taking classes, and there was no technology to create that transformational experience. And for the benefit of those who don't know about this story, Byju used to be in a stadium filled with thousands and thousands of students teaching math. And this is where the idea and the birth of Byju as a tech company came about. From there, Byju, to also what the pandemic has done to the sector. If you could quickly take us through what this 10-year journey has meant.
Yeah, so even within that 10-year journey, we have made this transition. We moved online only 6 years back. So the company in this format, we've just completed 6 years. Almost at the right time, we were able to move from offline to online, move from those large screens in stadiums to smaller screens at home. And that helps us to actually personalize the way we deliver those sessions by making it interactive, by launching learning apps. But before that, my fondest memories are from those days where I used to run from city to city, used to take marathon classes, used to take overnight bus and start the next day morning in the next city, used to cover 9 different cities across 7 days. And to be very honest, we are still enjoying the journey. It's very difficult for me to reflect on it. And journey is the right word, as you pointed out, because it implies moving forward. Too many entrepreneurs get too attached to what they build, which makes them too rigid to see what's ahead and what more and what better they can build. We built our learning app even when the VSAT model or the stadium model was working very well. And the day we launched our learning app, we had the conviction to positively disrupt that model. We disrupted our own model multiple times like that, and that's been a turning point. So and like I also would want to call out that no journey is worth taking alone. It's been worthwhile because we've found so many great fellow passengers all along, those who became entrepreneurs within the system, and we've been able to attract so many exceptional entrepreneurs as part of along the journey. And like the fact that the 6 founding members started with me 10 years back still there is a clear validation that they all join for right reasons. And obviously we have an unfair advantage of being in a sector where if you do good, you'll end up doing well. You do well, you'll end up doing good. And that also it matters to most of the youngsters today, everyone today, not just youngsters. So the growth, exponential or linear, is just an output metric, and outputs will always fall in place with the right inputs. And for us, it's always been those inputs where finding the right people, positive mindset, relevant products, creating everything based, using a student-centric approach. That's why we had the conviction to talk about love for learning in a country obsessed with spoon feeding, and creating by focusing on students. And when students by giving formats which are appealing for them to learn on their own, creating self learners and active learners. And still, again, there is everything can be done bigger, better, and faster. So and we've been able to consistently increase our aspiration level. And when we are almost trying to keep an aspiration level which we today might think it's impossible to reach, and when we are about to reach there, we'll raise the bar again. And that's been the and it's easy to find enough people like that. Significantly increased founder mentality in the company over the last 10 years, and that's why we have this big ambition of creating possibly one of the largest education companies globally over the next few years. On the for-profit side, but I will call it a success if you are able to do it on the other end of the spectrum. We have a real chance and responsibility to create one of the largest not-for-profit initiatives. Maybe not many of you know about it, and we don't want to talk about it, but you will very soon realize that what we are doing on the other end of the spectrum, for most of the students, this is where it's their primary mode of learning, or this is their only mode of learning.
Right.
The initiatives which you have started off, you will see us. So we have we'll be able to find the right balance between the two.
And that's what I want to talk to Mr. Kant about, because no success in a country like India can be complete if we do not ensure that there is success at the grassroots levels. And Mr. Kant, when you talk about the inputs that Byju was mentioning, one of the inputs for making EdTech a real success in India will be ensuring that it reaches the last mile, it reaches every single child in every village of India. And as Niti Aayog, you've taken upon yourself the task of building India's aspirational districts. We understand understand that Byju's as a company is also working with Niti Aayog on aspirational districts. But what's your thought and message to India's edtech companies today as they seek out to build for India and for the world? How do we solve for the challenges of the kind of digital divide that we see in India that may possibly either increase or decrease depending on the way we decide to move forward?
So first of all, let me say that Baiju Ravindran's journey has been extremely inspirational, and this should inspire a lot of our young entrepreneurs and our young startups. Uh, I would like to highlight that the value technology brings depends on how one leverages it. Promoting social good through EdTech, to my mind, brings huge value to the society and to the nation. I mean, just imagine a girl sitting in a remote village of, say, central India, accessing high quality higher education from the best of professors at leading IITs or IIMs or abroad. Now, that is the kind of revolution that technology in education can bring to rural areas. In our own aspirational district program, which are the most backward, some of the most difficult districts of India, we have partnered with Byju's to provide learning material, coaching for competitive exams such as G and NEET free of cost. And we are working with Baiju very closely to improve learning outcomes. Now, that is the transformative impact that we expect technology to have. And a comprehensive EdTech architecture, to my mind, will lead to providing access to learning, especially to disadvantaged groups, enabling processes of teaching, learning, and evaluation to improve. It will facilitate teacher training and continuous professional development for the teacher also. And it will greatly, the education system in many places has been hijacked by the teachers totally and by the unions and lobbies, and therefore improving governance systems, because there are issues of their transfers and postings, legal cases. I work very closely with the states, so I'm aware of this. This will radically improve governance system, including planning, management, monitoring process. Uh, you know, what's I'm quite aware of the fact very clearly that very aware of the digital divide that exists in the country. And I'm also aware that as a result, many high-end benefits of technology in education can lead to, benefit only for some class of people. But I see this as an opportunity. There are many innovations in education technology that has happened in the country to provide education, technology-driven education to the last mile students. All this, the use of television, interactive radio instruction, other low-tech interventions, they've all grown many-fold to impart teaching and learning. Now, you have technology that doesn't require constant internet to access tailored lessons over tabs, mobiles, or laptop. Even if you have internet, once in a while, the content gets updated for your performance, gets recorded. And there has been an increased effort by different state governments and the government of India to accelerate the pace of ICT-led education in the country. Schools from grade 6 to 12 are all covered, and I would really feel that technology will become the greatest leveler. It has the power to, it has a huge transformative power to democratize learning. And we need to truly embrace it. We need to own it, and we need to use it for making sure that each student performs exceedingly well on learning outcomes. And that is the key. India's performance on learning outcomes still leaves a lot to be desired. That will not happen in the traditional method of teachers training. The only way we'll improve our learning outcomes is to use technology to leapfrog in a very big way. And I am a great believer that when you have the usage of technology, you will get to know which student is performing on a real-time basis. Some student may be doing very well in maths, may be doing very badly in history, may be doing very poorly in geography. We will then be able to focus on history and geography. And artificial intelligence with the throwing up of data will enable us to do specialized classes for that. In certain places, student may be very good in social sciences, may not be good in maths, and we'll be able to track it. So on a real-time basis, we'll be able to offer specialized classes to the students, and this will be greatly beneficial for both our students as well as our teachers, and greatly help in enhancing our learning outcome. My belief is that India is set to become the Edtech capital of the world, with both the public and private sector, the private sector playing the key role, but the public sector acting as a great facilitator and a catalyst, and actually working with the private sector very closely to spread this all across India. I think without the private sector, we will not be able to enhance learning outcomes. Without the private sector, we'll not be able to bring efficiency. Without the private sector, we'll not be able to spread technology. And this has to be embraced by the public sector in a very big way if India is to become the EdTech capital of the world. We need many more Baijus, we need many more technology players, and we need many more drivers of growth for EdTech education to continue to grow and flourish in India. This is a huge win-win for us if India becomes the EdTech capital of the world, because we will ensure then that not merely students benefit, but the country benefits. Because technology will then be in the service of the learning model, and technology will really enable us to spread better education in villages after villages of India. And as the BharatNet spreads across the country, I think the technology will enable us to make a quantum jump in education.
Mr. Kant, very, very inspiring words from you, and especially for us to hear how you clearly believe. And when the government's vision comes together with the private sector's vision, that's when you see magic happen. And that's exactly what seems to be happening as far as EdTech in India is concerned, because the vision of the government to leverage technology, and as Mr. Kant mentioned, technology being a great leveler as far as education is concerned, and then the entrepreneurial spirit that is allowing us to take advantage of this unique opportunity. At the same time, you mentioned, Mr. Kant, the drivers for growth. And for EdTech to be driven, yes, mobile penetration, yes, internet penetration are very, very key constituents for this success to happen. You've also mentioned how we're seemingly overcoming some of these challenges. Okay, we may not require internet connections as far as delivering some part of that content is concerned. At the same time, Mr. Kant, your thoughts on what is required to make sure that we solve for these two problems of access? Number one, devices, and number two, internet.
So, firstly, I would say that we are spreading BharatNet in a very big way. We are doing it through a private-public partnership model. The government has already approved the final model of it. It is being put out to a transparent, competitive process. We'll spread it over the next 1,000 days across the entire country. And our intention is that internet must be available in every village of India. And I have traveled extensively to the aspirational districts, and my belief is that we do not need physical infrastructure of roads. We do not need physical infrastructure. We need internet much more than physical infrastructure. If internet is provided, you will see a huge benefit in terms of both education and health. And therefore, we are well poised to take this leap forward with increasing access to tech-based infrastructure. We've been able to provide electricity to every single village of India. We will provide affordable internet connectivity. The data costs are extremely low in India. And we will, fueled by the flagship programs such as Digital India, BharatNet, and the vast number of Ministry of Education initiatives, we will drive this. We have several successful programs at mass scale. We've delivered health insurance to 500 million Indians on a large scale, which is totally digital and paperless. You've seen the success of UPI, which has enabled digital payments to take off in the country. You've seen the large scale, size and scale of vaccination in this country. You've seen GST replacing 17 taxes in India, which is totally cashless and paperless. And you've seen that every Indian has a biometric today. And all this, to my mind, demonstrates that we are capable of delivering, size and scale to this delivery. And the new national education policy is very, very responsive to this clarion call to integrate technology at every level of instruction. It envisions actually the establishment of a national education technology forum to spearhead efforts towards, actually providing a major thrust to the deployment and use of technology. I'm a great believer that the Indian edtech ecosystem has a lot of potential for growth and innovation, and this market will grow exponentially. And while it grows, it'll perform a great social service to the country. Its market may grow, but the challenge, the key benefit of this growth will be that the country will benefit, the students will benefit, learning outcomes will improve, and that is the only way India will grow and prosper. And every single state of India, once internet is provided, will come forward to provide tablets to the students, because they will realize that actually the only way students will benefit will be through technology and through tablets and internet connectivity.
All right, so Baiju, let's bring you in here to understand how you're balancing, in some ways, twin objectives. On one hand, doing well, which you have been doing. The growth has been exponential. You've been on an acquisition spree that everybody talks about today. And yet, as Mr. Kant said, the importance of doing good, the importance of giving back. Also share with us how this story is working out. On one hand, there is an India to the world story, taking India EdTech to the world. But on the other hand, making sure that you are also tapping the potential that lies within India, the scale that Mr. Kant is talking about, that India provides, and that itself is a unique opportunity.
Yep. As you pointed out, it's education when it's powered by technology and with the kind of access to capital, like it's in the first 8 months itself, close to 4 billion came to Indian edtech startups compared to like a billion in the similar time a year back. And it's more than what we've been able to attract in the last 4 years. So clearly showing that world is looking at India and like as a promising future land across all sectors, not just for education. And education being Indian startups being at the forefront in terms of pioneering the sector itself. So this is the foremost made in India for the world offering in terms of because most of these subjects, whether it's math, science, reading, coding, they're all universal in nature. So once the framework is built in such a way that it's easy to export to different parts of the world. And on the other side, for any teacher today, the world is their classroom, whether it's teachers and companies. So that's the opportunity for Indian companies where we can capitalize on both the cost arbitrage and more importantly, the quality arbitrage. So it's Indian EdTech in 2021 is similar to what we were in IT in 1991. So the opportunity is huge. And like just to objectively talk about in the last 12 months itself, we have been able to attract high quality graduates, 12,000 plus high quality graduates to get into teaching, and all women graduates. And unfortunately here, a lot of them are underemployed because of multiple reasons. A lot of them struggle to get back to workforce once they take a break. For like some of the good graduates, those who live in our small towns, it's difficult to enter the workforce by moving to a big city. this is small scale, but the opportunity over there to create hundreds of thousands of teaching jobs. So on one side, there is an opportunity to make an impact in the way students learn. And on the other side, India can be that the global talent pool for teachers. Now, when it comes to math, coding, science, all these STEM subjects, there is no perception disadvantage. Like even the non-Asian parents in US, how they are responding to Indian teachers, the early indication like there is a strong product market fit. That's why it's not that because I always hear this question in terms of like, oh, Byju's is doing everything, what else we can do in the edtech? But that's a that's complete misunderstanding. There is so much to be done here, both on the for-profit side and more importantly on the like equally important is what the initiatives which we have started under Byju's Education for All, with an aim to make a difference to 5 million students by 2025. The response we got in the first 12 months, we will double that target. And we're very hopeful that we'll be able to achieve 10 million students on the other end of the spectrum. As I've told you, our paid users, for most of them, this is only a supplementary learning tool. But for those who are on the Byju's Education for platform, this is their only mode of learning. And we know that the impact which we are creating over there is going to be very, very long term. Now it's only the beginning. There is we need a lot of help from partners, the government bodies, NGOs, CSR initiatives. So we are taking all the help available because like everybody talks about digital divide today, but what I want to call out, it's the physical divide is a lot more glaring. You can't solve those challenges by building a better infrastructure, building more schools, building more roads, getting more teachers into classrooms. That's almost impossible to solve. Billions of dollars have been spent, but it's inefficient to solve. It takes so much more effort, time, and still like in the last 20 years, if you think of today, like with more graduates moving to cities, there are less good quality teachers left in our villages and small towns. The only way we can solve is by doing the other way around. It's like to solve these challenges at scale, we need to use technology. And that's where building an online school is a lot easier. You can getting a low-cost device in every home is a lot simpler than building schools and getting teachers inside. That's expensive and that's impossible to solve. So digital divide do exist, but physical divide is a lot more glaring.
Right. And it'll be very important for us to understand that as things stand today, is EdTech an urban phenomena in India, or are you seeing penetration already across tier 2, tier 3 cities? Like, what is the current state of the acceptance of EdTech across India?
It is still there is still a large percentage of students, those who are not having access to a device. So today, if you ask me, but compared to what it was before, just if someone in a small town, if they wants to learn, they can go online and start learning. There are enough resources available. Now, still, there's a lot of scope for improvement. There's almost 1/4 of the students, those who are not having access to a device, and that's the segment which we are all trying to solve by making sure that they get access to device, they get access to internet, and then there is enough content, product, and services available to make a difference to them. But otherwise, if you ask me today, there is still the early adopters are always obviously those who were online and those who've got access to device. But between the physical divide and digital divide, physical divide is a lot more glaring actually, because in our small towns and villages, it's very difficult to get teachers back in those villages and or attract good quality graduates back to teaching. Online, it's a lot simpler in terms of, because when you give an opportunity for a graduate to teach with flexibility, convenience, and possibly a higher earning potential, we are able to attract most of these teachers on our platform today. Those who teach from India to India and India to the world are first-time teachers, those who are those who are underemployed and in some cases unemployed, even after becoming, even after graduating from good universities in India.
All right, and as we said, that there are so many drivers that this is now going to change at a pace that is unimaginable, and many would say that what perhaps demonetization did to the digital payment space, the pandemic has done to the edtech sector, because the kind of adoption that we're seeing, which in some ways was forced adoption, but it has obviously spelled very well for Indian edtech and the India edtech story. I know we're running out of time and we could go on and on because this is such an interesting subject that touches so many lives, but I want to give the last word to Mr. Amitabh Kant and maybe have him ask a question or share a piece of advice for Baiju. So, Mr. Kant, with that, over to you.
Well, my belief is that we are at the beginning of the revolution on EdTech. Baiju has taken the lead in that, and he's moved forward. He's made a huge impact in India and the world. And we have 4 unicorns in the EdTech space, which came up between January 2020 and August 21. But we have over 4,500 startups. The market is geared up for exponential growth. The market size in this is going to be huge, over about close to about, to my mind, will be over about close to about astounding market size in this EdTech sector of over about close to 40-45 billion in the next decade. And we will see a huge amount of movement forward in this, because we are already seeing great examples of grassroots innovations. The Hamara Vidyalaya in Namsai district in Arunachal that's fostering tech-based performance assessments. Assam has an online career guidance portal, and Samarth in Gujarat is facilitating online professional development of lakhs of teachers in collaboration with IIM Ahmedabad. So my view is that Baiju is still at the beginning of this big revolution. And in the years to come, many entrepreneurs like Baiju will continue to grow and prosper and make a huge impact on India. And I would merely like to congratulate and wish Baiju all the very best, and not wish him that he spreads out to every single village of India, every single rural area of India, and makes a huge impact on learning outcomes across the country. I'm a great believer that affordable internet connectivity and this access to tech-based infrastructure is the only way forward. If we want to enhance our learning outcomes, it's not feasible through physical infrastructure. It's only feasible through technology. It's only feasible by technological leapfrogging, as we are doing in many other areas. And it can only be done through very efficient private sector, young entrepreneurs who will make all the difference. And the whole world is open to young entrepreneurs like Baiju Ravindran. We wish him all the best and a great future. And I also wish that he inspires many more young entrepreneurs to get into the area of EdTech, because this is the way to impact the lives of students, to make an impact on better teaching, to make an impact on India and take India's growth and progress forward.
Thank you, Mr. Kant. Those are clearly encouraging words. And if we were to talk about reviving India and making India the global EdTech capital, clearly, if we have heard both you, Mr. Kant, and Baiju today at this session, there seems no doubt that we're on that path. And clearly, with both the government as well as the private sector having that vision, there is nothing stopping India on that path and that journey. With that, I'm going to wrap up this session, but hand over to Ajay for the closing remarks.
Thank you, Shweta. I think traditional education is highly regulated sector, which is stopping India to become Gurukul of the world. But I think tech is a big disruptor and a phenomenal rise. We have an enabler in Mr. Kant, an entrepreneur in Mr. Baiju, and a financer in Shweta. And with this 3 combination, I'm sure this technology revolution will impact the sector in a huge way. I can't think of any event of PAFI where we've not had the privilege of having Mr. Khan. So thank you so much. It's good to have Baiju in our forum for the first time. And Shweta, thank you for giving the idea of this forum. With this, I'd like to conclude this session and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mantu.